The sun rose over the academy grounds, casting a golden glow across the perfectly aligned rows of cadets preparing for their graduation ceremony. Families filled the bleachers, waving small flags, clutching programs, and craning their necks for a glimpse of their sons and daughters who were about to cross into a new chapter of service. Among them stood a woman in a crisp white blouse, her hair neatly falling to her shoulders, her posture steady yet humble. To most, she looked like any proud mother waiting to watch her child step into history. But beneath the surface, beneath the calm smile and steady eyes, lived a story that few dared to tell aloud. Her name carried whispers in military circles, a name never forgotten in the deserts, the mountains, and the blood-soaked jungles where her legend had been forged. To her son, she was just Mom. To the uniformed men and women who happened to glance her way with hushed recognition, she was a combat hero who had vanished from active service years before, leaving only rumors of the missions she had survived. The commanding officer, a stern man with years of steel in his voice, walked past rows of cadets before stopping suddenly. His eyes caught her, and for a moment, the mask of ceremony cracked into something more personal. He turned, pointed toward her, and whispered something to the officer by his side. Murmurs rippled down the line. Some cadets, too young to know the depth of her past, exchanged puzzled glances. Others who had grown up hearing tales of the ghost operative looked at her with awe. She stood motionless, her smile polite, but her mind swam with the memories of a past that refused to stay buried. It had been more than a decade since she last touched a rifle, since she last crawled through dirt with her pulse pounding in her ears, since she last gave an order that saved lives in the middle of chaos. Back then, she had been known for her ability to lead men twice her size into battles no one thought survivable. Her team had been dropped into hostile zones, tasked with impossible rescues and sabotage missions that bent the definition of bravery. She was fearless not because she lacked fear, but because she knew how to use it, turning it into focus, precision, and the kind of leadership that soldiers would follow into fire itself. Yet after years of serving at the sharpest edge of combat, she had disappeared. No farewell parade, no medal ceremony, no interviews, just silence. Some believed she had been killed in an unreported mission, her body left behind in some forgotten outpost. Others believed she had been forced into retirement after defying an order too powerful to challenge. The truth was simpler, yet far more human: she had walked away for her son. She had chosen to trade the battlefield for a kitchen table, the sound of gunfire for the sound of a child's laughter, the weight of duty for the weight of motherhood. But no amount of love for a new life could erase the scars of the old one, and even as she helped her son with homework, packed his lunches, and tucked him into bed, her nights were haunted by the faces of the ones she had lost. Now, standing at his graduation, she tried to contain the pride swelling in her chest. He was wearing the same uniform she had once worn, his posture sharp, his gaze straight ahead. But unlike her, he had no idea how heavy that uniform would feel once the world tested him. She wanted to protect him, to shield him, but she knew that to truly honor her, he would have to forge his own path through fire. The ceremony continued, names being called, applause ringing out, caps lifted in celebration. Then came his turn. As he stepped forward, the announcer paused. Instead of just reading his name, he added a line that stunned the crowd: son of one of our nation's most decorated, yet unrecognized, combat operatives. Gasps echoed across the stands. Heads turned. Cadets shifted uneasily. The officer who had earlier pointed toward her now spoke openly: she is here among us today, a woman whose missions cannot be fully recorded, whose service cannot be properly acknowledged, but whose sacrifices carved the path that many of you will walk. Her heart froze. This was not supposed to happen. She had never sought recognition, never wanted her son's moment overshadowed by her shadow. She had lived quietly, blending into the rhythm of civilian life, content with the anonymity that allowed her to be just a mom. But now, the past refused to stay hidden. As applause erupted, she felt the weight of dozens of eyes upon her. Her son's eyes found hers, wide with shock but also with something deeper: realization. For the first time, he understood why she never spoke of her years in service, why certain nights she would sit silently on the porch staring into the dark, why sometimes she held him just a little longer as if afraid he might vanish. He understood that her silence had not been avoidance, but protection. But the drama didn't end there. Suddenly, in the midst of the celebration, a man stepped forward from the far side of the crowd, wearing civilian clothes but carrying the presence of authority. His voice cut through the applause, "She shouldn't be here." The crowd fell silent. He was a government official, one tied to the shadows of intelligence operations. His face was familiar to her, he had once been part of the very system that demanded her silence. He accused her of breaking an oath by even attending, of being a liability if her past became too public. Gasps rippled again. Her son stepped forward instinctively, standing between her and the official, his jaw tight, his body trembling with defiance. But she gently placed a hand on his shoulder, steadying him. With calm that only years of combat could forge, she faced the man and spoke loud enough for all to hear, "I served my country. I bled for my country. I buried brothers and sisters for my country. And today, I am here for my son. Nothing, no threats, no shadows, will take this moment from us." The crowd roared with approval, cadets pounding their boots in rhythm. The official, realizing he was outnumbered not by force but by conviction, retreated into the shadows from which he had emerged. For the first time in years, she felt the chains of silence crack and fall away. Her son received his diploma with tears in his eyes, not just for his own achievement but for the revelation of who his mother truly was. He had trained to serve, but now he understood the bloodline of courage that ran through his veins. She was no longer just the woman who packed his lunches, she was the warrior who had once kept entire squads alive with her willpower alone. As the ceremony ended, families flooded the field, snapping pictures, embracing their graduates. Cadets and officers alike approached her, shaking her hand, whispering thanks, some with tears glistening in their eyes. She smiled, but inside, she knew the story wasn't over. The past always has a way of circling back, and though today was about her son, tomorrow might test them both. Yet for now, the sun shone bright, flags waved proudly, and a mother's pride eclipsed every shadow. The legend who had walked away from war stood reborn in the role she cherished most, not soldier, not operative, not ghost, but mother. And for her son, that title would forever mean more than all the medals she had never claimed.